the searchers I seek, the wisdom that they speak, the lessons that they teach, just a searcher like me.
Hello there, fellow peregrinos. Welcome to El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we talk about planning, preparation, and packing for walking El Camino de Santiago, as well as tips, tricks, and hacks to make your journey along the way the most memorable, the best of your lifetime. We want to give you a once-in-a-lifetime trip, and to that end, this week we are talking to Stephen Rinda from Texas in the USA, who is retired from the US Army, now a priest, and has completed multiple Caminos and now leads pilgrimages for soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines from the United States Armed Forces. The goal, Steve's goal, is to help them heal from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and moral injury caused by conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan. Warriors on the Way is the name of Steve's organization. You can find out more about their admirable mission at warriorsontheway.org. We're going to talk a lot more about that in a little while. But Steve, please take us back to the time and place when you first decided to walk the Camino. You've done multiple pilgrimages, but why did you first decide to take the plunge and go and walk 500 miles across Spain?
Right, yeah. It was 2011, 2012 timeframe when I first heard about the Camino. I read an article about it, and it just kind of captured the imagination a little bit. And I thought, well, I'm going to do that someday, probably. And that was sort of the end of it. And then as I approached the point where I realized that I'd be retiring from the Army within the next few years, didn't have an exact time frame yet, but knew that it was closing in, I realized that after a extended period of time in the Army, I would need to be intentional in my move into civilian life. And for that, I wanted some time of uninterrupted prayer and thinking and just considering what the future would hold. And I thought, this is the time. And I've got that idea popping around in the back of my head to walk the Camino. So let me take advantage of this opportunity, this need in my life to walk the Camino. And so as I went into my retirement process, my transition plan from leaving the Army and entering into the civilian world was to spend that first block of time right out of the Army walking the Camino, so I could just, like I said, spend some time thinking about the future, praying about the future, and seeing what God revealed to me. And so that's the way it worked. It was and it worked well. It was perfect. It really set the stage for the years to come.
So what exactly was it in that article that you read that captured your imagination, that made you want to go and walk the Camino?
Well, I have to say it's just the idea of being out and having this like a sense of daily simplicity, right? Everybody's there for their own reason. At one level or another, they're there for the same reason. They're looking for something, and what that thing is may vary from person to person, but there's a desire to have some form of experience. And so you've got this kind of commonality, while at the same time, each person being unique, of course. So the idea to be able to go out and be on my own, it's being alone in a crowd, sort of, and it worked well. Being able to interact with others when I felt like it, to step away from others when I felt like it, in order to seek out the answers that I was looking for.
And when exactly was the idea born to start the Warriors on the Way movement?
Yeah, great question. I've been walking the Camino and recognizing the recognizing the benefit that I was achieving and experiencing from the Camino, and that was making me feel better. And I ultimately arrive at the Cruz de Ferro, and I had taken 18 stones with me.
Wow.
And those stones represented the soldiers that had in my battalion that had died as a result of the conflict there in Iraq. And so I carried those, and I left those at the foot of the cross, and kind of stepped away from it, and just looked and really soaked in the experience there, and it's a cathartic event. And if you put any thought into it, if you're intentional about it. And as I stepped away from the cross and looked around and just kind of soaked it all in, there was this girl nearby, and she's crying, and got no idea what's wrong. So I asked her if I could pray for her, and she didn't speak English, and so somebody else interpreted. And so, yeah, she wanted prayer. And when I finished praying, her whole countenance had changed, and off she went down the trail. And as I turned away from that, there's another guy. He was a Spanish speaker, and I don't speak much Spanish, but I was able to figure out that he wanted prayer as well, and prayed for him. And his face is just lights up as a result, and he goes on down the trail. And I say, this has been one of the most healing things that I've ever personally gone through. I need to figure out a way to bring other vets out here so that they can experience the same thing. And that just kind of popped into the back of my mind, and just sat there and percolated a little bit. And when I got home, I started sketching out, all right, if this is going to be a real thing, what's it got to look like? How does it have to be planned? How is it going to get support? And it took 2 years to get it designed, to get registered as a charity. In the United States, it's called being a 501c3 registered charity. Getting all of the administration pieces in place, all the legal pieces in place, and then start taking donations so that every veteran that gets selected to go on the pilgrimage is able to go as being fully sponsored, fully funded, so that they're not prevented from going for a lack of funds. They're not deprived this healing opportunity for a lack of funds, because we've got generous donors from all over that are providing the funding for them to help them heal.
Wow, Steve, so much to talk about from that answer, and so many questions that come up. I mean, what you said about leaving the stones at Cruz de Ferro tells me that maybe you needed some healing as well in your Camino.
Yes, absolutely. I was unaware of how much until I got there that day. And I mean, I knew that there was something, but I didn't realize the depth of what my soul needed until that day.
And when for those that don't know, the idea is that the Cruz de Ferro is the highest point on the Camino de Santiago, and you carry a stone with you, which symbolizes and you place it at the foot of the pole, and it symbolizes leaving behind a past burden. For you, what exactly was that burden? Was it resentment that you lost your comrades in conflict? Was it something else? What did you feel? What was the release that you felt when you placed those stones? It just gives me goosebumps, Steve, just asking these questions.
That's a good. Yeah, it's actually kind of hard to put a finger on it,
because this way you understand what the guys you're helping now. You understand what they've been through. You've been through the same psychological trauma process. So, what were you feeling? Were you leaving behind resentment? Were you leaving behind the bad memories? What was it for you?
There was this
Because you said it's cathartic.
this sense of there was this sense of kind of this burden of responsibility, and that I took upon myself, and I couldn't let go of it again after the event was over. I mean, it's one thing to say I've got a responsibility in the time and the place, but when that time and place no longer exist in your life, you should be that responsibility should be gone then. But it wasn't. I was somehow internally grasping onto that responsibility for these people, in a ministerial sort of way. Like, what did I do enough for them? How was my part of this mission fulfilled in them, or was it not? Just a lot of questions as to, I guess, the bottom line question, and it sort of encompasses multiple facets, is, had I done enough for these people? And then that expands out to their friends, their comrades that were there, that were experiencing the grief of their loss right there on the spot. And it was really heavy. It was extremely heavy.
Then that brings me on to the next question, which you mentioned that you felt some benefits. So are you able to define those benefits? Can you put your finger on them?
Oh, I'll tell you, how I knew it was healing that moment. I didn't know the depth of the healing until a few months later. The majority of our casualties were taken during the month of May. And the first few years home from Iraq, it was completely subconscious. Didn't realize what was going on. I finally was able to put my finger on it when I was kind of stepped back and actually talking with a colleague. But each year in the month of May, I would grow angry and agitated and very upset. Like I said, at first I didn't make the connection, and then I realized it's like I've got this internal clock that's reacting to experiences from a year ago, and then 2 years ago, and then 3 years ago, as it just continued to cling to me. And so it got to the point prior to the Camino that I knew that the month of May was going to be an uncomfortable month, but I understood what was going on, that it was some kind of emotional, psychological thing, and I could work with it. And with that, the reactions within me were greatly reduced. And that was a good step in and of itself. Little point I need to throw in: the majority of our casualties occurred on a single day. Not the majority, but the single most casualty producing day, better way of saying it, was on the 19th of May. The 19th of May was an extremely bad day for us. And so I've walked the Camino. I spent my time at the Cruz de Ferro. I left the stones at the foot of the cross, let go of that burden, and continued on. I felt better. I felt better immediately. Well, the following May, on a different pilgrimage, I'm in Lourdes, and I realized upon getting there that I didn't my pilgrimage experiences. And I will say it again, always carry a journal with you, write this stuff down. It's really important. And so I spent the first couple of days just going in and out of every shop I could find, trying to find some kind of notebook that I could use as a journal. And when I finally found one, I put the date at the top of the page, 19 May, and I go to write what had been happening the last couple of days. And I thought to myself, 19 May, that's an important day. Why is this day important? And I just racked my brain. It's like, it's not my birthday. It's not my brother's birthday. It's not. I mean, I just run down all the significant events in life. I couldn't figure out why my brain was telling me that this was an important day. It was a couple days later that I realized what the connection was. That 19 May was our most casualty-producing day while I was deployed. And so thorough and so complete was the healing of leaving those stones at the foot of the cross that the next big anniversary that typically would have me like, I'm not even going to go out, I'm not going to interact with people, I'm just going to shut myself in for the day until all of this just blows through my system, was completely gone. I could not bring it to memory no matter how hard I tried. It took a couple days to figure it out.
So knowing how powerful that moment was for you, leaving the stones at the cross, and I apologize for this, Steve, because the connection just dropped for a crucial split second, and I think you said putting the pieces together was that you said that was actually, was that the 19th of May that you actually did that?
Let me make sure I understand your question correctly. I was on the Camino in September and October.
Right. Okay.
And then the next following May, I was on a different pilgrimage, and that one was to Lourdes.
Yeah.
And that's when I was going to write in my journal 19 May.
Right.
And I could not figure out why it was so important a day to me.
Okay, so I apologise for that because the audio just dropped for a crucial second there, and I thought I missed something really important. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss the significance of something. But okay, so knowing that how powerful and how that experience provided you with so much healing, what's your guidance to the servicemen and women that you now take to Cruz de Ferro? How do you talk them through the moment? And I guess this would go for anybody that's going to go to Cruz de Ferro. How can they? What guidance and what advice would you give to maximize and optimize the healing in that moment?
All right. Well, I ask everybody once the applications come through and we get it sorted out and we select the group that's going to go in any particular year, then with the selection and notification that you've been selected to be part of this pilgrimage, I ask them to start thinking about what they want to, what burden is in their life that they want to be rid of, that they want to be free of, and to start identifying one particular thing. And then because we work within the time frame of the typical vacation schedule, the typical holiday schedule from work, our pilgrimage for Warriors on the Way is 2 weeks in length. And so 2 weeks prior to leaving, then I say, all right, that burden that you've thought about, that you've identified, I need you to find a stone that represents that. Make it big enough that it's annoying, small enough that you're going to carry it every day, and then carry it every day. So that way, even though we're not walking from Saint-Jean, they still have a couple weeks of getting physically irritated by that stone that they're carrying. So it really can become the embodiment of a burden. And then we get to Cruz de Ferro, and we go to Cruz de Ferro. We get there first thing in the morning, so that we're there actually before daybreak. And everybody's given the opportunity to share what burden they want to leave at the foot of the cross. Nobody's forced to. They're just given that opportunity to share if they want to. We talk about the importance of leaving burdens behind. And of course, I'm speaking as a man of faith, and I'll say, none of us can carry these burdens by ourselves, but Jesus carried every burden in the world to the cross. So it's really a matter of you letting go of it and leaving it where it belongs, there at the cross. And arriving in Santiago is a huge deal, and all the pilgrims are of course, happy and joyous and everything else. But I get a lot of feedback at the end of the pilgrimage that reaching Santiago is great, but the morning of there you are as the sun rises, leaving your burdens at the foot of the cross was the day. Like that was the prime moving experience. And I get that same feedback over and over from all different pilgrims that participate.
It's absolutely incredible, Steve. Absolutely incredible. I'm just picturing the moment and not only the physical relief that you said is big enough that it's a kind of it's troubling you, but the psychological relief that and something that you've also potentially shared with your fellow comrades that you're working with. So yeah, this sounds so powerful and instrumental in making someone's pilgrimage. And also, I mean, taking a few stats from your website, there's a 70% reduction in symptoms from doing the Camino, and 93% chance of recovery with timely intervention and treatment. And it sounds like this is part of that treatment and a very timely, potentially powerful intervention. So, I mean, it's amazing, Stephen, the mission you guys are on, and how many people you're helping, and especially servicemen and women that have been through so much and risked their lives to make ordinary people like myself our lives better. Because I guess you're from the US, I'm from the UK, and we're always on the same team. So I'm grateful to everything you've done, and your comrades, and always will be. And I guess I can never fully appreciate what you've been through unless I was to experience something myself. And this is where the moment in your first Camino, I guess, where potentially Warriors on the Way was born, when you're laying those stones at the cross for your comrades. And I'd like to tie that in, if I may, with the mission of our podcast, which is to help first time pilgrims, returning pilgrims, refine their routines. So gonna go to a few more light-hearted questions now, and then we will go back quite naturally to obviously talk about the what you do through Warriors on the Way organization. But imagine you were going to take you were going to go back and take some of your comrades on the Camino tomorrow. Were you to advise them, aside from the stones, the three most important things to carry with them?
Okay. Yeah, the three most important things. Well, be a camera and a journal, and for me personally, it's my mass kits, because we're gonna celebrate the Eucharist every morning. But I know a lot of people settle for the camera that's in their phone, and I appreciate that as a weight saving thing. But maybe I'm just too picky with my photos. I want the added capabilities that a regular camera will provide me. And there's so many good ones out there, and they're getting smaller, and they're getting lighter, and they're getting better, and they're getting less expensive every day. So I splurged a little weight with a real camera. And then, as I mentioned earlier, a journal. You want to write this stuff down. It's more than photos. It's more than sending a text message to your friend about how great a day it was. You want to go back, and you want to reread this weeks after getting home, months after getting home, years after getting home, and put yourself back in those experiences. So a really good journal that you can write in and keep, and you know that it's going to stay with you for the rest of your life.
I'm intrigued, Steve. You talk about journaling as a really important thing. I guess that's for the healing process as well, recording your thoughts and the evolution of your realizations along the way. One of the problems I found journaling was I would do it at the end of the day. Often by the end of the day, I'm so tired that really I'm just writing bullet points of everything that happened, and not even got the energy to explore my feelings. Is there a way you can optimize your journaling? Do you have a journaling routine?
Oh, I wish I did.
Is it just at the end of the day, like
some,
myself?
I share some of the same challenges that you have, but
Mm.
the one that I would recommend is that, and you'll get more than bullet points. It's not necessarily enough time to really flesh out your day, but you are fresher when you're doing it, and that is at your at your meals, you place your order, it's going to be a little while before it comes. If you're not walking with someone else, if you're not just immediately engaged in a conversation, that's a perfect opportunity to quick pull your journal out. Keep it at the top of your pack. Quick pull it out and put your thoughts of the day so far at that point. It's not a perfect long period of time where you're fresh and energized and everything else, where you can just go on and on and on. But for the bulk of the population, like yourself and myself, when at the end of the day and you're just completely feeling like all you want to do is soak in the shower a minute and lay down, you will have a more complete journal doing it the other way than if you just leave it to the end.
Yeah, I've learned that as well. And I think that's a really good point. And that's what I came to do in my last Camino, that I would actually, when my wife and I had stopped, we'd kind of just take 5-10 minutes to ourselves and write down everything that's happened so far. And we'd even remind each other of stuff that happened as well. So in terms of just pure events and recording people you've met, which is one of the Camino's big gifts, is like the characters you meet along the way. But yeah, definitely stop in, and when you have a meal, while you're waiting for your food, just get a few things down rather than wait until you're destroyed at the end of the day. So yeah, really good advice there, Steve. I just wonder. And
one more thing.
Yeah, please.
One more thing. If you've taken a photo that you know is going to be a special photo, right? Leave a blank page. Just skip to the next page and then go back and write on it. It's like add photo of whatever here, and then you can. Then when you get home, you print out the photo and you can tape it to that page. And now you've got the photo that goes with the story, because you intentionally left that blank page with a note as to what you wanted to put on that blank page.
Yeah, it sounds like something my wife would do. She's excellent at making a scrapbook for that kind of thing and recording memories. So yeah, great advice. And I guess you're guiding many people through their Caminos, and is there a mistake you see, a common mistake you see them making and you'd advise others to be aware of?
Well, I think the main mistake is the one that we pretty much all make at one point or other, and that's overpacking. Everybody carries too much stuff. And so what I've had to do is I actually have a digital scale, and when the pilgrims come in and I give them their packs, because we supply them all the equipment that they need, I give them their packs and I tell them before they ever come not to pack anything with them, because they're going to be restricted to no more than 18 pounds. And before we ever leave, every one of their packs gets put on that digital scale. And it's like, what are you going to leave behind? What are you going to leave behind? What are you going to leave behind? And force them to the discipline of not carrying an excess amount of stuff. And they still carry too much stuff. At this point for my own pack, including water, is only 14 pounds. That's only 6.3 kilos. And I carry too much stuff at 14 pounds. So don't carry all that stuff. The Camino is an extremely robust and well prepared to meet every one of your needs pilgrimage route. Don't overpack.
So how many changes of clothes would you say that would include? Like one change of clothes or two changes of clothes? Because you're talking 8 kilos is you're saying the limit is 8 kilos, like 18 pounds or whatever. So there's not a lot you can fit in that.
Yeah, I carry one pair of long pants with the zip off legs, 2 quick dry t-shirts, a couple pair of socks, a couple pair of underpants, like a 1 long sleeve shirt for the evening, and a pair of shorts for the evening, and a pair of flip flops for the evening, a fleece cap, and some real thin gloves, and that's it.
And
40 ounce.
in terms of keeping your clothes clean, as much as possible, what's your routine when you get to the albergue? And I mean, how are you drying your clothes in time? Because I think lots of pilgrims that have never walked this, as well as those that would maybe go on a pilgrimage with you, they might be thinking, how am I going to keep my clothes clean and fresh?
Yeah, because you're flipping a single set of clothes every day, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's important to know
so
these things, right?
so two answers. When I walk by myself, then I'll I arrive, I get checked into the albergue, immediately do personal hygiene, change into what I'm wearing for the evening, wash my clothes, and put them out on the line, and just wash them in the wash tubs that are typically available. I don't think I've ever been in a place that didn't have some kind of facility where you could hand wash your clothes, and then you put them out on the line. You're there. I walk in September, first few days of October. You still have plenty of daylight at the end of the day, still plenty warm. Your clothes are dry if you're smart and only bring quick dry clothing. And so that works out well. By the time you're done washing, putting up everything on the line, then you can do a little bit of walking around the town. You can go and get your pilgrim menu of the evening. You can write in your journal. And by the time you're done doing all that, you walk back out to the line and your clothes are dry. Now, when I lead a group, I've developed a relationship with albergues because, me walking by myself, I can find a bed for one person, no problem. And it doesn't matter what the facilities are like. When I'm leading a group of 12 people, a different story. I got to know we're going to have 12 beds every place that we go. So I've got a developed network of albergues. We always stay in the same place. A friend of mine, actually a volunteer with the program, tells me in a half joking, half criticizing way that I'm giving people the Gucci Camino experience, because there's only a couple places along the way that doesn't do our group laundry for us. And so that just takes that particular element off the table.
Okay, so that brings me neatly on to my next question. Often we've got, as pilgrims, so many albergues to choose from. Often you arrive in a town and you might have the municipal, you might have a private, you might have a hotel. I'm going to put you on the spot now, Steve, and ask you if you could recommend one that you recommend that pilgrims stay in.
All right. Well, that is a really hard question because at this point I've got a great, just incredible working relationship with all the albergues where we stay, and they're brilliant. But I'll say the first, I'll give you the one that I stayed in on my own. I haven't ever brought Worries on the Way there because it's actually a little bit earlier on the Frances than where we start due to our time limitation. But that's Albergue San Miguel in Hospital Arbigo.
I've stayed there.
It's a quirky little place, a lot of fun. The hospitalero is wonderful, helpful. You can cook your own food there. He's got all
modern
these
kitchen.
Yeah. And you can paint pictures there and leave them up. So all the different pilgrim artists there. So that was a really fun place. I really liked that. And so that is separate from where I lead people. So I can give that a big round of applause.
Did you paint a
picture,
Steve?
I did not paint a picture. I do photography. I don't do paint.
Okay.
So, but I will highlight now, and a couple places I'll mention some others because it fits in with the story. But I will highlight the Flores del Camino in Castrillo de los Valverde. That's the first place that we stop. It's just outside of Astorga. Basha and Bertrand, married couple that run that, they make our first night, because we've spent day and night in the plane. We've landed in Madrid. We've motor transported to the first stop. So we get there, and after all of this extended travel, getting through passport control, everything else, and they just have everything ready for us. They know where we're coming from. They lay out a great meal for us. They're really intentional about getting other pilgrims involved that are staying there. They've got a beautiful courtyard area where the evening meal is served. If the weather doesn't support being outside, they've got a nice big dining area inside. So just I'll give them a particular highlight because it's such a crucial start of the day, right? We get every pilgrim off to an absolutely brilliant beginning, and it's largely the fact of how great Basha and Bertrand are there at Flores del Camino.
Okay, so two albergues mentioned there. Hospital del Orbigo, that's the name of the town, and the albergue is called San Miguel. And the other one is the albergue in Castillo de Polvasares. Castillo de Polvasares. And the names of the guys there, it was Basha and
Bertrand.
Okay, great stuff. So
and the name of that place is Flores del Camino, Flowers of the Camino.
Flores del Camino. Perfect. Thanks for those recommendations, Steve. And I guess you've mentioned the Cruz de Ferro as being a really important milestone along the way. I wonder if there's a city, town, village, even hidden gem must see along the way that you'd recommend.
Catch that.
Sorry?
Yeah, we had a sound break.
Okay, no worries. No worries. I'll just write that down. 47 mins edits. Let's go again. A favorite city, town, village, hidden gem must see along the way.
Not necessarily a hidden gem, but I think it's a underappreciated gem. Other people starting earlier along the way may point out other cities, but when you're in Pamparada, there's the nice basilica there. There's the city center that's got multiple plazas coming off of that downtown section with great little restaurants. You can get some wine, you can get some tapas, you can get some ice cream, you can do a bit of shopping if you're willing to carry the extra weight. And most critically is that a spot like you've been out for a while and they've got a great outdoor store. So if you need to repair or replace anything that you've broken, your rucksack, your trekking poles, or anything else, you can get your boots are worn out, whatever. They've got a great outdoor gear shop there. And of course, there's the Templar Castle where you can spend an entire day if you want. It's a place that you could stop overnight and spend an extra day there. Just all in all, it's just a great small city. And Hospitalera is Esperanza, which goes by hope for all the English speakers, because that's the translation. So Esperanza, hope. She will treat you like family and make you a huge meal. It's a brilliant place.
And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think I'm mistaken. That's on when you're coming down from Cruz de Ferro as well. So if you've been in the back of beyond for a little while, it's a good place to replenish all your supplies as well. So Ponferrada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've been out away from any major town for a while now, and so it's a great rest stop. It's a great resupply stop.
Perfect. And having had how many times have you walked the Camino Frances now, Steve?
4 times.
4 times. Okay, so you maybe got an experience of an eatery somewhere along the way, somewhere that you'd recommend, somewhere where you take your pilgrims.
Well, I will say, as I just mentioned, the meal that I like the best is the one that's made by Hope at Albergue Alea. And so she makes everything the way you want it. She makes sure that your dietary restrictions are honored. It's brilliant. But and if you go and stay there, choose the lentil soup as your starter. But as far as going to an actual eatery somewhere, I'm going to recommend the De Gusto Bakery and Cafe. It's in Puerto Marin. It's on the street Rua Peregrino, and go there and get their churros con chocolate. It's the great. I mean, you go into Puerto Marin, you climb that great big thing of stairs, you get yourself settled, and then the Rua Peregrino is a couple streets off of the main that goes through, and just go down there. It's quiet. It's a nice little place tucked out of the way, and splurge on a treat for yourself and get their churros con chocolate.
And you deserve it after climbing all those steps as well.
That's right. That's right. You can usually just consider that your calorie offset for the
your
day.
excuse.
You climb the stairs.
Yeah.
You climb the stairs. You deserve the churros.
Yeah. The place you said was Albergue Aller. How do you spell that?
Alea.
Alea. So Hope Esperanza Albergue Aller. And of course the place that you mentioned in Puerto Marin. Okay. We're gonna ask a few quick fire questions now. And then we're gonna get back to the main discussion. I'm gonna ask you to maybe tell us a success story of Warriors on the Way. So we'll get that ready and cooking. But before we do that, some Camino quickies. So, your favorites Camino blog or book?
All right. That's a hard question because there's so many books. Everybody writes a book when they get home, and how can you go wrong writing about the Camino, right? But I think I've got to have as my favorite is To the Field of Stars by Kevin Codd.
Is there a Facebook forum or a Facebook group or forum that you send your pilgrims to help with preparation?
Well, obviously everybody's got to go to the Warriors on the Way Facebook page. But other than that, I wouldn't consider that a group or a forum. The favorite group is, and it's kind of a clumsy name, I'll admit up front. It's September 2021 Camino de Santiago. I'm not quite sure how it got its name, but each year it's renamed for the following calendar year. So it'll be called 2022 eventually, 2023 eventually. It's got a fairly large membership, but it's really well adminned. So people stay cordial and you don't have to restrict people's posts. And you can ask questions, you can put your hopes and dreams on there, and everybody is supportive. So just September 2021 Camino de Santiago. It's a great little Facebook group.
Favorite Camino vlog and or film?
Again, there's a lot of good films out there. The one that I watched just recently, not sure when it came out, but I only became aware of it recently, so I watched it just maybe a week or two ago, is The Road to Santiago. And that's a documentary of one person's walk, his personal restoration of faith and a sense of purpose. I thought it was a really good story, really uplifting.
One thing they wish they may have packed, or you may have packed?
The one thing that was wish I may have packed the first time is, as overloaded as I was, and I was grossly overloaded, just a thin set of gloves. And I'll make sure that that's on the packing list for everybody that goes with us now. Just all you need to do is keep the cool air off your hands first thing in the morning when it can get a little bit extra chilly. And you don't think about it, 'cause especially if you're going in the autumn, you don't think about the fact that it can be rather biting cold in the morning until you're up and moving and the sun comes up. So add just a real thin set of gloves.
One thing you didn't need and wouldn't take again?
Oh, I read all of the advice things and people talking about having to relieve themselves on the side of the road. And being a good soldier, I brought a small shovel for the sake of digging a waste hole. It was like, I was over halfway done. I'm like, why am I carrying this? I haven't used it once. I mean, you've got towns, like little villages that are so close together. I never had to stop on the side of the road. And I ended up carrying, that little shovel was probably a pound or a pound and a half by itself. And eventually I just left it in a bin in one of the albergues.
59 episodes, maybe 60, I think now, Steve, and no one's ever mentioned taking a shovel for that purpose. So it's very, very, very conscientious of you, very thoughtful. I'm gonna ask you to go maybe into a bit more depth about a question I normally ask, which is hardest part of the Camino. I think that could be more pertinent for something to do with your company's mission, Warriors on the Way. But a quote or some meditations for the road.
Oh yeah, we've got. I'm going to have to paraphrase it because I can't remember it, but it comes from the Desert Fathers, and there's a great little volume of sayings from the Desert Fathers that was edited together by the monk Thomas Merton. And one of the quotes that he puts in there, and I'll try to get it as close as possible, is a soldier went to the elder and asked if God would forgive him. And the elder looked back and he said, "If you tear your cloak, will you throw it away?" And he said, "Well, of course not. I'm going to repair it and put it back on." And he says, "If you can care that much for your cloak, won't God care that much more for his own image?" Because we're all created in the image of God. And so that's the message I convey at the start of our Camino with the pilgrims. It's like, God wants to make you better. God wants to make you whole. So it's this brilliant little quote that comes from somewhere in the middle 100s, early 200 time frame of the desert monks out there setting up the first monastic communities, about how at that time the story hasn't changed. A soldier who's now trying to figure out, was what I did right, wrong? Most likely if they're asking the question, they're thinking it probably was wrong. If they're thinking it's wrong, then what is their future fate, and how is God going to treat them? So it's a great quote for our group as we begin our walk.
And in the spirit of maybe forgiving themselves and making themselves better and healing, are there any, obviously you don't have to give names or personal details, but any success stories, any examples of how the Warriors on the Way pilgrimages have helped the people that you've taken along the way?
Yeah, I'll give a couple, because they're the most I guess easiest to resonate with, regardless if you've had the experience or not. And that is one person who had for years interrupted sleep, just couldn't sleep. And then by the time we were a few days into the pilgrimage, he was sleeping through the night, and he was sleeping at every opportunity, actually, because he was making up for years of only a couple hours of sleep a day. And so within a matter of a couple of days, he was able to sleep through the night. And within a couple more days, he was able to sit down and take a nap at any moment, and just have a physical restoration that went with that spiritual restoration in the form of sleep. And bad sleep affects your entire life. So that was a huge deal for him. The other is a person who our Marine Corps, I'm not sure how yours works, but our Marine Corps does not have medical personnel of their own. Instead, they use medical personnel from the Navy. And so we had this Navy corpsman with us, and he was a Navy corpsman, but he was assigned to work with the Marines. So he was on the ground with the Marines in combat, and he never lost a Marine. He was able to save the lives of every Marine that got wounded within his area that he was able to be in contact with. He was able to save that person from whatever level of wounds they sustained. But one time they were out, and they were out on patrol, and they were doing their job. And bad guys ambushed them, and they responded in kind, So a firefight ensues, and because of the situation, because of where they were ambushed, there were some children in between the opposing sides, the enemy on the one side and our Marines on the other. And some children got shot in the process because they got caught in the crossfire. And he saved some of them, but he wasn't able to save all of those kids. And the burden of not being able to save those kids just weighed on him terribly. And he said a couple days after leaving the cruise to Faro that it was as if 100 pounds had been taken off of his back. Just he was finally able to stand upright again and just exist in a level of personal emotional comfort by having allowed that burden to be taken off of him.
It's, I mean, the things that you're describing, it's unfathomable for someone like myself that's never been in combat. So just to, I can only say that what your mission is as well, from what I got at the start, sounds like not only you're helping them to heal from these incredibly traumatic experiences, but also part of the Camino's power for you was the transition. And we mentioned the statistic that there was a 70% reduction in symptoms, a 93% chance of recovery with timely intervention, such as a pilgrimage on the Camino with Warriors on the Way. Any successful transition stories too?
There's well, I want to back up just a second, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
I want to point out on that 70% statistic. We achieved that knowledge of that level of effectiveness by doing before and after. Before and after, it's not really testing, but it's an assessment tool. That's what it's called. And it is a legitimate, certified, validated assessment tool. And our program is been blessed with 3 volunteers, 2 clinical psychologists, and a psychiatrist that are all familiar with PTSD care. And so all of that is documented improvement, and because we make sure that everything is done precisely so that we can track how much people's lives are changing as a result of this program, and that the numbers are valid, that they can't be questioned, because we've got all the documentation to show it. I just want to point that out.
So it's an integrated approach.
Yes, absolutely. So, and I cannot praise my partners in this enough. They volunteer their time, they volunteer their talents. They take turns going on the Camino so that they're there as a resource for the pilgrims. I go every year. They alternate so that their private practices aren't too terribly disrupted. So it's just an incredible service that they provide the veterans as well. I had people going to a transition story, had people get home, have positive career changes. I've got a spouse that will occasionally still send me thank you notes because the marital situation, the pleasantness of life at home has just grown exponentially as a result of the change experienced while on the Camino. So yeah, we don't have a measurement, right? That's a frequent question. We don't have a measurement. What is a year later or what is 2 years later? But we do have all of this anecdotal material of people remaining in contact, sending back what they're currently doing, improvements in their family lives, family members reaching out, thanking us for bringing the spouse, whether it be the male spouse or the female spouse, depending on which one's the service member, reaching back and saying, this was a huge event for my spouse. It's made home life so much better. So yeah, there's a variety of different things going on as sort of the lasting legacy of the experience that they had on the Camino.
Yeah, I mean, because even though not all of the pilgrims have been through combat, many pilgrims are in a point of transition in their life. Many people are changing their jobs, which is what a lot of your pilgrims that you're guiding through the way are doing as well. They're changing careers, and oftentimes you meet people that are considering a career change or going through a career change, or they are having problems in their home life, personal life. So it's completely relatable what you do. So my next question will be, is there some practices along the way? I mean, you mentioned at the start, you mentioned some thinking time, some meditation time, some prayer time. Any practices that can help pilgrims, whether they're been in combat or not, to consider those changes? I think you mentioned journaling as one. How can they
Yeah,
be? And the word
journaling.
you mentioned, Steve, was intentional. So how can they be intentional about that?
Well, I meet a lot of people that they want, they'll say, "Oh, you've been on the Camino. Tell me about it. I want to go." Okay, great. Why do you want to go? Oh, because I want to. Oh, there's a reason that you want to go. You may not be aware of what it is at this particular moment, but there's something that's motivating you. And if you can spend the time and really contemplate, what is my motivation for going? What do I want to achieve? And it might be something simple. I just need a break from the so-called rat race of life. Or it may be I'm really seeking an answer that I'm currently distracted from even trying to find. And I'm hoping for, I'm praying for whatever answer to this particular decision I've got to make in life. Or I'm trying to gain a vision for my life now that this has changed or that has changed. I'm no longer doing whatever. Career changes, family relationship changes. These are all things that are emotionally upsetting, and will motivate a lot of people to go onto the Camino if they know the Camino exists. But they might not realize that is what their motivation is. They'll just say, "Well, I want to get away for a little while." Well, you want to get away, but there's something more to it. So spend the time. And when I'm in the United States, I do what's called spiritual direction, spiritual exercises of Ignatius of Loyola. That's a kind of an in-place pilgrimage in that it brings you through a variety of decisions and growth opportunities. And when the person who's in spiritual direction doesn't really engage the material, we call it not doing the work. Like, this is a huge thing, and it's going to provide you amazing growth, but you have to do the work. And so I would say, do the work of the Camino. Know why you're there. Know what you're looking for. And that information may change as you're walking. It may become clearer. You may think that you were looking for this, when in reality, that was just covering up some other need that you had. But you have to start that conversation with you so that you know why you're walking. I tell people all the time, the road is a really hard teacher, but it is a faithful teacher. So get out there and learn your lessons.
And I think just before we finish, Steve, I'm imagining that some of the hardships that you've endured in combat and in service would be nothing compared to the hardships that you would have to deal with just from walking from one place to the other. But maybe you can surprise me with this. Like how to get through, like, what would you say one of the hardest times you've seen for your own servicemen and women that you've guided through the Camino? What any really low points that could be physically, psychologically along the way, and how have you guided them to get through it, and how would you guide others to to get through it? Were they to encounter the same issues?
Right. Well, I'll say at the start, and most people I've talked with have experienced this at one level or another, is that there's kind of this low point that happens after a few days. You get there, you got a lot of motivation, and you're going, and then suddenly you realize you're just walking again for another day, and you think, well, I probably got all I need out of this, and you may be tempted to quit. So push through that temptation, because the real benefit is waiting on the other side of that low point. So just push through that and get to the real benefit that's coming. But a particular hard point, and it's physical, and that's the beauty of the Camino, is that you can join the physical and the spiritual, the physical and the emotional. And when I say it's, we stay, before climbing Dos Sobrero, we stay in Arias, and we stay at Casa Lixa. It's Lixa, Casa Lixa, the albergue there. Great hospitaliera named Angelique. And that's right at the base of that mountain. And if you remember, it is extremely steep. I don't know what the percent incline is, but it is the steepest incline you're going to deal with that's extended, because that's a 6-mile climb, and it feels like you're going straight up. So physically, it's really hard, especially if you haven't trained. But we get up super early. We get up incredibly early the day we're going to climb that, and the folks there at Casa Lixa, they make sure that we've got breakfast that we can carry with us, so that we're leaving way before the kitchen opens. But they've got everything prepped for us, and we leave out in the dark. So you're walking, and it's hard, and it's dark, and it's uphill, and there's a couple places along there that you can get misdirected. It's not terrible, but you do have to pay attention. And then we get to the apex of that mountain. We get to the peak of that mountain where O Sobrero is at daybreak. Again, kind of similar to Cruz de Ferro. Because that parish church, there was a Eucharistic miracle there back in the winter of 1300, when the priest didn't believe in the Eucharist. The priest himself didn't believe in the Eucharist. He didn't believe that the transformation of the elements occurred. But this farmer did, and the farmer kind of insisted that he celebrate the Mass for him. And as a testimony of the farmer's faith and and to be a source of conviction against the priest's lack of faith, there was a physical where you could actually see the change to the elements, right? And so we're bringing these vets, and they've been facing a hard life due to the experiences that they've had. And there's a lot of people that don't think that they can change. They think that they're permanently damaged. Sometimes they're thinking that of themselves. Sometimes it's their closest friends and family that should be trying to support them, and instead are giving them these negative messages of you'll never change. So we get up super early. We walk up to Sobrero. We endure that 6 miles of what feels like straight up. And then the volunteers that come in and open that church for the pilgrims, we wait for them, and they let us in when they get there in order to start getting things set up. It was funny, the first time we asked, we said, can I use your altar once you open? And he said, no, come in now. Once we open, the place is going to be full of tourists. If you're going to celebrate the Mass, you don't want everybody getting in your way. And so we do that every time, and we give that message. It's like, you can, no matter how much other people doubt, and no matter how much seemingly important people, just like this priest that didn't believe, but the farmer did, no matter how important the person who's casting doubt seems to be, you can be completely transformed, just like those elements are. And the relics of that miracle are still on display there in an incredible case that was built. So they're there standing testimony of the miraculous transformation. You can have a miraculous transformation as well. Will you cooperate with God and allow yourself to be transformed?
That seems like the most inspirational note to finish the podcast, Steve. So thanks for that story. Thanks for that lasting final thoughts that no matter how big the challenge is and no matter what everyone's saying, that actually there is still, we can go back to Esperanza, hope. There's still hope and there's a chance. And as we keep walking up that mountain and getting to the top of that mountain is kind of symbolic as well, isn't it? To have that moment. So thanks really for sharing that, Steve. If the listeners want to get in contact with you, can you just remind them how to do so again?
Yes, please. Go to our website, which is Warriors on the Way, warriorsontheway.org. And from there, you can learn about the program. It links to the Facebook so that you can see photos from previous pilgrimages, Twitter account, Instagram, all the different social media platforms are all linked there. And the ability to send us an email if you want to either apply for the program, if you want to sponsor a pilgrim, you just want to send a message of support. Feel free to reach out. Love hearing from you.
Obviously, it's potentially impossible to predict this, but have you got an intentional next departure date, or is it all depending on obviously how things play out?
Yes, it's the planning is really a year in progress. A bit ironically, here we're recording this on the day we were supposed to fly to Spain for the 2020 pilgrimage. The 2020 pilgrimage, we were supposed to fly to Spain today. So we're now in the planning progress for 2021. We've taken all of the pilgrims that are capable of shifting their own personal time away from home. We've shifted them to the 2021 pilgrimage. And we've been in contact, like I said, we've got a well-developed relationship with our albergues, canceled the 2020 reservations, established reservations for 2021. And it's our intention to be walking this same time next year, the last couple of weeks of last couple of weeks of September, first day or so of October. And we're going to, just like the rest of the world, continue to watch and see when the borders open to see if that see if that opportunity presents itself. We're moving forward with confidence. So far, things are looking, we're not done yet, but it does seem like the finish line of having to restrict borders might be on the horizon. And so we're moving forward with confidence. If we're forced to change again, we'll adapt, right? That's the spirit of the Camino. You do what you do, and when something provides an obstacle, you figure out how to either go around or go over the obstacle and adapt as needed.
Yeah, it'll be worth waiting for, that's for sure. Steve, all I can say now is thanks so much for your time. Thank you so much for the wonderful stories you've shared, the inspirational thoughts you've shared, the tips, and of course, thank you for all you're doing for US servicemen and women on the Camino. It's an amazing mission you're on, and sometimes the words life-changing are used quite loosely, but this has never been more appropriate. So Steve, buen camino, like you said, keep moving forward. Ultrea.